You're listening to Positive Waves on 89.5 KCFV Ferguson. Every week, we work to bring you information that benefits you right here in North County. This is Positive Waves. And hello, we are joined today by Joan Lipkin, who is the artistic director and founder of Dance the Vote. And we're going to be talking about something that's coming up at the Missouri History Museum on September 24th. Hi, Joan.
Hi, Paul. It's great to be with you.
It is fantastic to be talking to you today. So can you tell us a little bit about Dance the Vote?
Happy to. So Dance the Vote is an organization that I founded about 6 years ago to use the arts as a way to promote voting literacy. And what that means is really helping people to understand when elections are, why they matter, and why we want them involved.
And so this is really, really a big thing coming up because we do have midterms coming up. Yes. And so we want to get people out and aware of this. Now, this is going to be taking place at the Missouri History Museum.
Yes, our big event, it's almost like a voting festival, is going to be happening on Saturday, September 24th between 12:30 and 3 p.m. And we're going to do a number of really cool things, including taking the biggest photo that's ever been taken in the state of people who are committed to voting in the midterms. But we're also going to have 14 musicians and singers, 6 dance companies. We're going to do this photo is going to be with a drone. There's going to be a lot going on. And people can also register to vote, and they can get the latest information about how to do it legally and safely. But yes, the midterms are very important. That is the name of our event. Midterms Matter.
I was just about to say, and you've actually called the event Midterms Matter. Now, you said you've been doing this for 6 years, is it?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So what types of things can someone expect if they come out to the Dance the Vote event on the 24th?
Well, they will have an opportunity to actually dance with us.
That's cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's fun. I see you moving around there because we're going to do the electric slide and the wobble.
Oh, that's great.
And yes, and then my Dance the Vote partner, choreographer Ashley Tate, has created what we are calling a community dance that she will teach to everybody. And so no matter what their dancing capability or experience is, including for children and people with disabilities, everybody will be able to participate in that. We're going to have a special children's section, which where we will have crafts. Kids will have an opportunity to decorate their own poster that they can actually wear that says future voter. We're going to have story sharing. We can have the bubble lady. I love bubbles. So we're going to have the bubble lady blowing bubbles. But the other thing is that we have a new project with the St. Louis Public Library, and it's called The Voters of St. Louis. And when you come, you will be able to take your photo in front of this beautiful backdrop of the library and get your photo and also share your voting story, whether it's enthusiastic or whether you've had some issues. You can share that with us and we will create your narrative for and with you and send it back to you. So there are going to be a lot of things going on, and there are also going to be speakers, including Denise Lieberman from the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition and Reverend Daryl Gray from Missouri Faith Voices. People of faith have really been at the forefront of protecting the right to vote, and often they have been African American. So that's a perspective that we really want to make sure is there, the perspective of communities of faith. And we'll also have a woman with a disability because we are ending up right now on voting rights education week about people with disabilities. People with disabilities are the largest and most disenfranchised group when it comes to voting. And there are 38 million registered people with disabilities to vote in the country, but they don't all get out there to do this for a number of reasons, which we can talk about later. So there's going to be a lot. There's just going to be a lot. It's going to be great fun. Of course, there'll be food trucks, right?
Gotta have food.
Got to have food, but I am really excited about this drone photo.
I think
We
that
hired this.
sounds really, really like that's going to be a neat thing to see. I want you to send me a link to that when you get that all back
Well,
and
of course,
everything.
I
I
will
want to
send
see
you a
that.
link. Paul, I will send you a link, but I want to see you there holding a
You
sign.
might be able to. I might end up being out there that day.
It's
Um,
this is an event for people of all ages, but the midterms are really, really important, Paul, and I'd love to share a little bit more about why that's the case.
Absolutely, because one of the things I think a lot of people, when they look at the midterm elections, they're like, oh, well, that's not the important one because everybody makes so much about the presidential elections every 4 years.
Yes.
But they seem to kind of poo poo and ignore, oh, well, that's just the midterms or that's just the municipal elections. And those arguably are the ones that make the biggest difference day to day.
They absolutely do, Paul. It's
People
like,
seem to
who is
kind
your
of
congressperson? Who is your senator? They are the ones that are making decisions to represent you and your interests. So
exactly.
you have to make sure you really have to make sure that you're voting in the midterms to try and have the people that that concern you, that are going to represent your interests. And this can be so confusing. And but one of the things that we're also doing is we're also trying to talk about the importance of voting for students, because students may not always realize they're so busy working and studying and hopefully living some part of their best lives that they're not always aware of deadlines or how this affects them. I will say in 2020, we had the highest turnout um, of younger voters since 18-year-olds were given the right to vote in 1972,
Yeah,
the highest, and that was in 2020. But then it falls off again. Then it fell, then it falls off again, and they are actually the lowest voting demographic.
yeah. And that's kind of an issue because they are the ones that are probably going to be affected by any consequences of voting, whether it be legislation, whether it be economic consequences. They're going to be the ones that have to deal with it for the longest amount of time
That's
because,
Yep,
you
that's
know,
right. That's right. And so there've been all kinds of polls that have been done about what is it that students are concerned about. And I'll share with you what they are.
absolutely.
The top political issues that students care about are college affordability, racial justice, environment and climate change, gun control, gender equity and pay gap, campus sexual assault, and healthcare. These are the things that students, when they have been polled, have said that they're most concerned about. Well, let me say that most of those issues are issues that your elected representatives, people in the Senate, people in the Congress, would be making decisions about. So there's this gap, Paul, between what people think is the case and what the reality is. The reality is that the midterms in some ways are as consequential, in some instances more, than the
I
president.
would absolutely argue more consequential because these are the people that will be representing you. I mean, let's face it, and I can't fathom this, but there are people in high school and sometimes college that don't realize that every election, midterm and
Yeah.
presidential year, every one of the candidates for House of Representatives is up for reelection.
Yes.
1/3 of the US senators are up every 2-year election cycle. And
Yeah.
we're not even getting into the municipal elections, which that's something that I think I'd like to get your perspective on. Why is it that people think, oh, the presidential election I have to turn out for, but the midterms I don't really need to. And then municipal elections, arguably the ones that are going to affect you most of all,
Mm-hmm.
there is abysmal turnout.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why is that,
Why?
and how can we address that? Because I want to vote for who is going to be my mayor or my council person or
Yes.
my alder person. Whatever that is, that should be something that I care deeply about,
Yeah.
because they're really going to affect me day to day. My
Yeah.
state representatives, my state senators, governor, things like that. But why is it that people tend to poo-poo that? And how can we get young people especially, but everyone, more involved and more interested in looking at those races?
Yes, that is just that is the best and most troubling question, Paul. I think it's economic. So the two parties pour a tremendous amount of money into the presidential, and so what happens is you get bombarded with commercials and with advertising, and then the mainstream media does major debates in real time on major channels, right? Significant
Yes.
channels. So it has a different visibility. So people, and then it's like, oh, it's the president, right? So people have a different perception of it. And the midterms, it's much more difficult to get that kind of visibility. And people, candidates don't have that often that kind of those kinds of economic resources to promote their platforms as much. And representation matters. So that which is less visible to us are things that we tend to not take as seriously. But the thing about it is that there's this proliferation of things that are going on right now that are really an erosion of all kinds of basic rights around freedom of speech, around education and literacy. And for example, all these banned books that are now that are going on in classrooms, but also in libraries, and librarians and libraries being harassed and educators being harassed. Well, who do you think makes these decisions? They happen, some of them happen on the federal level, but some of them happen more basically on the local level with your local school board.
Yep.
But if you are not aware that that is what your school board makes decisions about, you may not think it's important to vote for the school board, and you may not notice that it's happening. And I have a tremendous amount of empathy for the average citizen, if there is such a thing as an average anything, because I feel that all of us are just kind of overwhelmed by so much stuff going on in our lives, by being in a pandemic, which we're really not out of completely,
Yeah.
and all the ramifications of that. And so a lot of people are just trying to manage their lives, and they don't always realize or feel like they can make the space for tracking the political things that actually do affect their lives. So my attitude is one of love and compassion, and then it's like, how can we educate? And one of the ways that we're doing this is with Midterms Matter, which will be on the lawn of the Missouri History Museum, to which everyone is invited. We want to make sure that people have the latest information that they need. We will have people from the League of Women Voters who can advise on all the latest stuff, right? So that people can register to vote and they can know how to do it, and why it's important.
Okay. And you bring up registering to vote. And now in Missouri, you have to be registered for the November 2022 election by October 12th, I believe it is. Yes, October 12th. So if you are not registered to vote, what would someone need in order to register to vote? Because you have to be 18 by election day, correct?
You have to be 18 by election day, but you could register before that if you will be 18 by
Yes.
election day. And so we were involved in the runoff in Georgia, with Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff, and there were almost 20,000 people who were going to turn 18 between the previous election and the runoff. Almost 20,000 who would turn 18 and who then would be eligible. So that's pretty exciting, and that's a pretty big number. So somebody should check and make sure, see where they are in terms of their birth date and voting. But what you're going to need now is a photo ID, a state issued photo ID. It could be your driver's license.
Yes.
If it is an expired driver's license, it's not going to work.
So it has to be a current.
It has to be a current one. And the way to get the most up-to-date information about what you need to do, because it's been changing a lot,
yes,
is you can call 866 Our Vote, which is the election protection hotline. And that is a good number to call if you also get to the polls and you are having a hard time with what you want, what you have, or if you registered, but for some reason they don't have your name. So that's a very good thing to have, to be able to call them. Or for example, if you're a person with a disability and you get there and you are needing curbside voting and they're not doing it, or you're needing assistance with a screen reader and they don't have it. So we want to track this very carefully. That's 866 Our Vote. You can also call the League of Women Voters, which is not just for women, but it was founded by women, and it is a fantastic organization that has, it's nonpartisan, that has information on everyone who is running and whatever the issues are. And they have up-to-date information on how to register to vote. They are also can register people. Many of the St. Louis libraries, you can register to vote. They have no issues with their librarians registering people, but there are new state rulings that you have to be registered with the Missouri, with the Secretary of State's office.
Secretary of State's, yeah.
If you want to be a person who registers people, and
yeah.
and that's, there's all these new things that are going on. So the best thing to do is to call your local office, election office, right, in the city or the county, or to call or write to the, go online with the League of Women Voters, or to call 866 Our Vote. All of these places are very eager to help you and make sure that you can exercise this really precious right. And I know that it's gotten complicated, Paul, and there are actually several lawsuits right now that are pending to challenge the fact that things have gotten so complicated.
Yeah, it's just been really, it's been very difficult lately. And I can't stress enough that 866 Our Vote number is a fantastic place to get started if you are needing information, if you're needing to find out what you need to register, if you're needing to find out where you need to register. I would like to give a huge shout out to the League of Women Voters. Regardless, whatever the best thing that you can do for yourself ahead of any election, I don't care if it's for dog catcher or president of the world, is find information about the candidates, the issues, the ballot measures. And I have consistently over my years of life turned to the League of Women Voters for that information, because it is nonpartisan. It is very easy to understand. They break a lot of these things down. They give you the actual ballot language and an explanation of the ballot language, which increasingly the last few years has been very, very important. We're running a little short on time, Joan, but I wanted to, again, talk about the Dance the Vote event that is happening this Saturday, the 24th of September, from 12:30 to 3 at the Missouri History Museum.
Yes.
And I really, if you're interested in getting more involved, getting information, just coming out and celebrating the fact that we have the right to vote.
Absolutely. So there's a kind of joy to our event. It's not a doom and gloom kind of event. It's like, yes, things are challenging, but aren't we fortunate that we get to vote in America as opposed to other places in the world? We're going to have dynamic speakers and surprise guests. We are going to have voter registration and voter information tables. And great organizations are going to be there, like the NAACP and the League of Women Voters. And you can learn the wobble and the electric slide. We'll have music and singing and food trucks and kids activities, all free. And as I said, we were going to have, you can take your photo for the voters of St. Louis, and that could also be future voters. It could be a college student who says, you know, I didn't vote in this last election, but I'm going to vote in this next one. I want to take my photo and have this beautiful photo and image that we will give to you. But I also want everybody to be in this photo. Wouldn't it be amazing to have people of all ages and backgrounds, future voters and current voters, in this gigantic photo with a drone?
I think that would be great.
Doesn't that sound cool?
I think it sounds
So
fantastic.
So it's, the whole thing is free, Paul. We want everyone to come. You can get more information by looking at our website, which is dancethevote.stl.org, or going to the Missouri History Museum website. But everyone is welcome. And whether you just come for a little or you stay the whole afternoon, you will not be sorry, because there's going to be so many things to entertain and involve you. But if you can only come for part, we encourage people to gather at 12:30 to take that photo with our drone and be part of history.
I think that sounds fantastic. I think it sounds great. Joan Lipkin, again, thank you so much for talking to us today. We will definitely keep in mind the Dance the Vote, and we will definitely make sure that if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to the League of Women Voters and to the vote helpline at 866-OUR-VOTE. Again, Joan, thank you very much.
Paul, what a pleasure to be with you.
This has been another episode of Positive Waves here on 89.5 KCFV. Be sure to tune in next week for more positive, uplifting news about what's going on here in North County.